If you've ever been in a room full of people and quietly noticed that someone was off, not because they said anything, not because anything was visibly wrong, just a feeling, a shift in energy, something in the way they were holding themselves. And you were right. Most people didn't catch it, but you did. That's not luck. That's not sensitivity for the sake of sensitivity. That's something most people don't even have a name for, and it's one of the quietest signs of something much deeper running underneath. People who are emotionally intelligent don't usually announce it. They don't talk about it. Half the time, they don't even fully recognize it in themselves. But once you understand what it actually looks like, not the textbook version, the real version, you start seeing it everywhere. The first thing you notice about emotionally intelligent people is that they feel information before they process it. Someone else walks into a conversation and hears the words. An emotionally intelligent person walks into that same conversation and reads the entire atmosphere. The pause before someone answered, the way a smile didn't quite reach the eyes, the topic that was very carefully avoided. They're not analyzing it consciously, at least not at first. It's more like the information lands in their body before it reaches their mind. There's a physical knowing that comes before the logical explanation. And because of that, they tend to trust themselves in a way that's hard to explain to others. Not arrogantly, quietly, like they've learned that their gut has a memory that their conscious mind hasn't fully caught up to yet. This comes from something most people overlook: emotional attunement developed early. People who grew up needing to read the room, who learned to pay attention to emotional signals before they had words for it, often carry that ability with them long into adulthood. What started as a survival skill becomes a kind of social intelligence that most people spend years trying to develop deliberately. Here's something subtle. Emotionally intelligent people are unusually comfortable with a pause. Not awkward silence, that's different, but the gap between feeling something and responding to it. Most people fill that space immediately. Discomfort, reaction, words. It happens fast because the emotional charge demands release. But emotionally intelligent people have learned, sometimes the hard way, that the first response isn't always the real one. There's a version underneath it that's more accurate, more measured, more true to what they actually mean. So they wait. Not always long, sometimes just a breath, sometimes a few seconds, but that pause is doing real psychological work. It's the difference between reacting from the emotion and responding to the situation. This isn't detachment, it's not coldness, it's actually the opposite. It requires a high level of self-awareness to stay present with a feeling without immediately acting on it. And people around them often mistake that stillness for calm, when it's actually something more intentional than calm. It's regulation in real time. Most people think emotional intelligence is about being in control of your emotions, managing them, keeping them contained. That's the version most people have been taught, that the goal is not to be too much, not to let things affect you, not to show the full weight of what you carry. But the real picture is almost the opposite. Emotionally intelligent people don't feel less, they often feel more. The difference is that they've developed a kind of internal architecture for it. They know how to move through an emotion rather than around it. They know how to let something be felt without letting it take over. They're not avoiding discomfort, they're remarkably willing to sit in it. That's why they can hold space for other people so naturally. When someone is going through something difficult, the instinct for most people is to fix it, minimize it, or redirect it, because sitting in someone else's pain is genuinely uncomfortable. Emotionally intelligent people don't flinch from it the same way. They can be present inside someone else's experience without needing it to resolve. That's not a personality trait, that's a developed capacity, usually built through having experienced emotions that nobody helped them name or process, and eventually learning to do that for themselves. Emotionally intelligent people have an unusual relationship with conflict. They don't seek it, but they don't collapse under it either. What they've often learned is that conflict avoided doesn't disappear, it just moves underground. And underground conflict tends to surface later, louder, in a different form. So they tend to address things, not dramatically, not aggressively, but they'll say the quiet part out loud when most people would let it pass. They name the thing that's sitting in the room, and there's a kind of courage in that, the kind that doesn't look like courage because it's so calm. They're also unusually good at disagreeing without it becoming personal. They can separate the idea from the identity. They can challenge a perspective without the other person feeling attacked. And they can receive a challenge without immediately becoming defensive, because they're not as fused to being right as most people are. Being accurate matters more than being validated. That's psychologically rare, because for most people, being wrong feels like a threat to the self. For emotionally intelligent people, being wrong is just information, something to update and move on from. What runs through all of this is one thing: awareness. Not self-obsession, not overcomplicated introspection, just a consistent, practiced habit of noticing. Noticing what's happening internally, noticing what's happening in the space between people, noticing the patterns underneath the surface behavior, their own and others. Emotional intelligence isn't about having perfect emotional control. It's not about always saying the right thing or never getting dysregulated or having some polished, unshakable calm. It's something quieter than that. It's about knowing what's actually happening in a moment, in yourself, in a room, in a relationship, and having enough honesty to name it, at least internally. The people who carry this often didn't choose to develop it. Life required it of them, and somewhere along the way, that requirement became a capacity, something that now moves through everything they do, quietly, consistently, in ways most people around them can feel, but not quite explain. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and awareness like that, real, clear, unsentimentalized self-awareness, that changes how you move through every room you walk into. It was never random, it was always a pattern.